Tonight, I get to see my most anticipated movie of the year, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. That means today I'm starting up a new series, the series where I'm going to do a deep dive into every Mission Impossible movie. Now, I plan on having this series done before I even saw the new one tonight. It's not going to happen because, I don't know, I've just been really behind on the Final Destination stuff and then other stuff with Thunderbolts. Haven't had time to get these videos out, so it's going to be after it comes out, probably even after my ranking of the movies. But I love this franchise so much. It's my favorite franchise of all time. I have to do a deep dive of all the movies. Before I start with my review of the original Mission Impossible, please make sure to subscribe, the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below. What are your opinions on the original Mission Impossible? I want to know all that and more. And while you're down there, subscribe and hit the like button and hit the bell so you never miss another video. And with that said, let's dive in to talking about the first Mission Impossible. Here's how the video is going to work. I'm going to start with talking about my thoughts on the movie, my overall thoughts on the movie, and then I'm going to kind of go to a deep dive, a spoiler review, talking about individual PowerPoints in the movie. This first Mission Impossible movie was one that I always really enjoyed. I always thought that this one was good because it's nice to go back to the simplicity of things. Where in Mission Impossible, starting pretty much with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and hopefully 8, the plot of those movies are extravagant. They have all these moving pieces. There's all these crazy stunts. And this one is just a typical agent is on the run from his agency because he was framed for something. And it's nice to have that simplicity of it. Story, it's nice to be simple. Does it mean the story's anything special? The story's anything crazy good? No, it's just nice to have the simple stuff. It's nice to have the simple gadgets where you get the exploding gum. You get the face reveal things. It's nice to have the simple things. And then, of course, you do get that one crazy, awesome action sequence where it's Ethan Hunt and his other team trying to get the one thing, and he's hanging down, and you see the drop of sweat come down. If that drop of sweat falls down, the mission would be ruined. And it's a really good stunt. I still think it's probably top 5 stunt of the franchise, how it technically has all these moving pieces for one stunt. So it's nice to have the simplicity of things, but at the same time, the story, like, as fun as it is to be simple, the story does have some flaws. Like, it definitely has its dragging moments. The story never as fully investing as it is in other Mission Impossible movies. There's no massive action set pieces. So, like, the movie's good. It's fun to watch this movie. It's fun to go back from time to time. But out of this franchise, it's never the one that I'd choose to, let's go back to watch that. It's never one that had me on the edge of my seat the full time. It's just a fun action spy movie. And when you get movies in this franchise that are just fun action spy movies, I can't complain because it's a good spy movie. If you're comparing it to Mission Impossible 4, 5, 6, 7, and hopefully 8, it's not going to be as good because those movies are some of the best action movies of all time. But it's still a movie I have a lot of fun with. Now we're going to start diving into specific details, doing my deep dive of this movie. Starting with the first thing I want to talk about, which is his first, Ethan Hunt's, when I say his, Ethan Hunt's first team and the deaths of that first team, and basically the first mission overall. So this first team, kind of forgettable, to be completely honest. You got the tech guy, who I can't remember his name right now, but he is very obviously the one guy that you're supposed to latch onto on this team. Him and Ethan Hunt, pretty much the only ones that have personality. I mean, of course, you got Jim, and you got Jim's wife, but nobody else, like, everybody else was just kind of like people to die for. You get the tech guy who's got the personality, and then you get Ethan Hunt, who is Ethan Hunt. So, not really supposed to latch onto them. I do like this tech guy, though. And the deaths are pretty cool. They're on this first mission. They're trying to get this list from somebody because, well, we'll find out later that it all turned into be a mole hunt. Their goal, or their mission, if they choose to accept it, is to find the list and get it out of the wrong hands. And it's a pretty fun mission. You get stuff like the tech guy being in an elevator and them having to use the masks to blend in and play the roles of several other people. It's a fun mission. It's not as extravagant, like I said, as any other ones in the franchise, but it is a fun enough mission to where eventually you get it to be the mole hunt, which kind of doesn't make any sense because these people are getting killed Like, the IMF is allowing their agents to just get killed. Like, the tech guy gets smashed in the elevator. Great great sequence, by the way. And then you get some lady being shot. Jim is stabbed. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But, it's kind of confusing. Why would the IMF let them get killed for all this for a mole hunt? Anyways, Ethan Hunt is the only one standing. Their goal was to kill the agents and see who the last one's standing, and that would be the mole. Again, kind of impractical to kill your agents just to find one mole, and you don't even know for sure if it's the mole, because obviously Ethan Hunt was not the mole. But you get the cool deaths, and I think they're pretty cool. Like, I don't care much about a lot of these characters, but the elevator death specifically was pretty cool and kind of sets the tone for the movie. Like, oh shoot, these people died. Like, the first time I watched the movie, like, oh shoot, his team is dead. And that's what really propels the plot forward. So then, now we're going to talk about Ethan's betrayal. He goes out to dinner with the leader of the IMF, Kettridge, who is a big theme in all these movies, the big leader of the IMF. So he goes out to dinner with him after, doesn't really go out to dinner, but goes out to a restaurant to discuss the deaths of his team and what is happening. And he finds out it's a mole hunt. He finds out that the IMF thinks he's a mole, thinks he's giving the list away to bad guys, so they accuse him of it. Obviously, we know it's not Ethan Hunt, but they think it is Ethan Hunt. So he decides to take that exploding gum, like I said. And like I said, I do think it's very cool, the fact that the tech in this movie is very old style. Exploding gum, face ripped off. You don't get like all these crazy things. You just get like little things like exploding gum. He takes that exploding gum, smashes it up, throws it against a fish tank, and explodes the water all over everybody. It's like this massive fish tank. I wish that they didn't do this sequence in slow-mo, by the way, because like it's kind of ridiculous. You see everyone go, "Oh, gotta get away from the water." It's kind of ridiculous. But it's still a very cool sequence, and then Ethan gets away. So it does have that central, like, oh shoot, Ethan got away. This is what the actual plot of the movie is about. So now we're going to talk about teaming up with Max. He finds out the person who was going to buy the list goes by a code name, Max. He's trying to find Max, does some research trying to find it, and finds out that when he read something somewhere that said Job 315, thinking that it's talking about a certain job, he realizes that it is based off the Bible verse, Job 3:16, or I don't know the specific Bible verse. I think it's 3:16, but I could be wrong. So eventually he goes on these Bible apps, starts messaging people to where he finds Max, to where he eventually goes to try to find Max. He gets kidnapped, and he eventually agrees to get the list for Max. This is starting to try to get Ethan to try to clear his name a little bit. If he gets the list to Max, then like they'll find out that Max was actually the bad guy, and they'll find the other mole and whatever. So Ethan does that. He teams up with Max. I think that this is a pretty interesting plot. Teaming up with the bad guy, again, a little bit impractical, but it is Mission Impossible, so obviously it's a little bit impossible. But Max isn't specifically like one of the most memorable villains in this franchise. Like every time I watch this movie, I'm like, oh shoot, that's one of the villains of the movie. Okay, so yeah, it's a decent enough villain. And that's where we talk about the big heist and the new team, where shoot, I forgot to mention that Jim's wife is still alive. He thought Jim's wife was alive, but she kind of snuck up on him, and now they're working together. Ethan and Jim's wife decide to go try to form a team. They get this one random guy, and then they get Luther, who is one of the big members of the team in the current Mission Impossible movies. And their mission, if they choose to accept it, is to break into the vault and get the list, the real list. So how they have to do that is they have to break in through not the gate, but the air ducts, lasers in the air ducts, use all their fancy tech to sneak through, and then they have to climb down through the air ducts without touching the ground because there's pressure plates there, without having anything touch the ground. I mean, sweat or anything. Well, also, there are noise readers where you can't make any noise whatsoever and try to get this list. And like I said in the intro of the video, I do think it is a very cool heist. I think it's one of the top 5 stunts in this franchise just because of how simple but effective it is. Where, yes, they cannot make a sound. They cannot let anything touch that floor. It's stressful. It's like a 5-minute sequence where you're just kind of on your edge of your seat, like, oh shoot, quiet. Every sound, everything that happens, you're on the edge of your seat. And that's again what this franchise does so well, is every action sequence, every stunt sequence, they always find something new to throw in. It's not just, oh, they can't make sound, they can't do that. But no, they always find some certain problem where you keep being like, okay, how is the team going to come across this? How is the team going to beat this? And it is very, very cool. This sets the tone for the rest of the franchise. It is just such a great heist, such a great stunt. And the way they do it, just so effective. Eventually, they get the list, and they get out. And it's the sequence, when I think of Mission Impossible 1, it is the sequence that I think of. I don't think of anything else but Ethan Hunt dangling from the sky, trying to get the list. Such a good sequence. Best sequence of the movie. Top 5 in the franchise. So the IMF decides to respond by arresting Ethan's family. And that's when Ethan's like, oh, okay, they're playing dirty here. Because at this point, they still think Ethan is the mole. So he runs to a train station, uses one of the payphones, calls them, says, yo, that's not cool. I'm not the mole. And then tells them a specific time and place they gotta be at. And then he hangs up the phone, turns around, and there's Jim, his former IMF leader, who did not, in fact, die in that first mission. Here's where it starts to get a little confusing. They go out, they discover, and they're talking, and Ethan sort of discovers that Jim's the mole. And the thing is, the way it's played off is a little weird. It starts going flashbacks, and you're like, oh shoot, Jim's the mole. But it never fully tells you if Ethan knows he's the mole or not until the final act. So Jim, like I said, kind of just a forgettable character, just like a lot of the team. But when he turns out to be the mole, especially the fact that you have Jim's wife and they're both bad, like they're both just doing this to get some money, it's a decent enough plot. Like I said, the villains of this movie aren't super memorable, but it's decent enough. It's cool that you're like, oh, Ethan's not the mole anymore, it's Jim. And now you wonder how the final act is going to go down. And this final fight on the train is really good. We do have a much better fight on a train in a Mission Impossible movie further down the road, which is my personal favorite, Dead Reckoning. But this fight is pretty good. So Ethan's on the train. You got Max on the train. They're getting the list. You got Kittredge and agents from IMF on the train. They're all trying to get the list. And then you have Jim and his wife just planning on stealing the list, making a getaway with some money, and they're on the train. So you have all these moving patterns in here. Ethan eventually pretends to be Jim at the train car. His wife comes, reveals that she's bad as well. He reveals that he's Ethan, and then here comes Kittredge. They go on top of the train, they fight a little bit, and then here comes one of the members of Ethan's former team, not the former team, but the team that he used to steal the list in the first place, driving a helicopter. Very cool sequence as well, where they're in a helicopter, it's attached to the plane, they go into a tunnel. Again, like I said, making every single stunt, every single action piece in this entire franchise kind of have all these moving individual layers. So then eventually Ethan takes his exploding gum, still a very cool thing, throws it at the helicopter, explodes the helicopter, and Jim in the process and ends up winning the day, clearing his name and all that. Very cool third act. I wouldn't say it's like a best third act in the Mission Impossible franchise, but still, I like the moving parts. I like the helicopter being in the tunnel. Train action sequences are always something I really like. And even though the franchise does it much better in Dead Reckoning, a big train action sequence, I still really, really, really liked this fight. Really, really liked this action sequence. So I did like this action sequence. And then again, it's just kind of the simplicity of the story that kind of has the drawback of this one. So I do really enjoy the original Mission Impossible. I think that it has a simple story that works, has some cool action sequences in here, but overall the story, even though it's simple, is not that memorable. It's not as good as other films in this franchise. I do still really enjoy Mission Impossible, the original though, but it's definitely, compared to the greatness the franchise hits later on, it's definitely not my favorite. That's why I'm going to have to give the first Mission Impossible a B+. Alright guys, that was my first deep dive into the Mission Impossible franchise. Stay tuned for more deep dives. Got Mission Impossible 2 and 3 next, and then we get exciting with, what is it? Is it Ghost Protocol or Rogue Nation 4? I think it's Ghost Protocol. But stay tuned for all that, and with that said, subscribe.